the village's grazing commons, including neem, shisham, mango, and amla. To ensure the financial security, after the birth of a girl child, the villagers contribute 21,000 rupees collectively and take 10,000 rupees from the parents and put it in a fixed deposit bank account, which can be used only after she turns 18. To make sure that girl child receives a proper education, the villagers make the parents sign an affidavit or legal contract which restricts them from marrying her off before she attains the legal age for marriage. Shyam Sundar Paliwal, the former Sarpanch or elected village head, started this initiative in memory of his daughter Kiran, who died in 2006, and the village is covered with trees leading to a higher water level and richer wildlife. To keep termites away from the trees, many of which bear fruit, the village has planted more than 2.5 million aloe vera plants around them. Gradually, they realized that aloe vera could be processed and marketed in a variety of ways. So, the community now produces and markets aloe-based products like juice and gel, among other things. See you next time on Betcha Didn't Know, compliments of Sigismund Consultants, Inc.
Drink Pepsi Black from max taste to no sugar. Pepsi Black time, 18 hours.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. With the news at this time, I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good evening. First, the highlights. A candidate vying for the leadership of the PNCR has complained that a general secretary of that party is interfering in the elections process. A 100-year-old woman has died of COVID-19. And we tell you this hour also that the University of Guyana has launched a policy and a unit to counter forms of discrimination. In the region, Barbadians may pay more for electricity if a request by the Barbados Light and Power Company is approved by the Fair Trading Commission ahead of its final decision on the matter. And internationally, rebels in Ethiopia are contemplating marching on the capital, Addis Ababa. The details of these and other stories in a moment.
After a hard day's work, a lime at the workplace would be great, and a lime at the workplace with KFC would be even better, with a wide choice of finger-licking meals in a wide range of sizes. It could be the celebration of a colleague's birthday or promotion, or just a lime for no reason at all. Any lime, anytime, anywhere is better and tastier with a delicious meal from any of KFC's 9 locations, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. University of Guyana has launched its Inclusivity, Diversity and Equity Policy. That publicly funded tertiary institution has also set up a unit to oversee and implement the policy. Registrar of the University of Guyana, Dr. Nigel Graves-Andy, says that the Inclusivity, Diversity and Equity Policy seeks to address issues of discrimination based on race, place of origin, politics, physical and mental disability, sexual orientation, age, and other factors.
Indeed, the policy underscores the fact that the University of Guyana embraces inclusion, which means that we value and we cultivate full and meaningful engagement of historically and structurally excluded individuals and groups.
He says the University of Guyana addresses the need to include diverse populations regardless of those factors. The registrar says UG has sought to remove real and perceived barriers and harassment. One of the candidates for the post of leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Dr. Richard Van West Charles, wants the General Secretary, Amna Ali, to step back from the electoral process. Delegates are expected to cast ballots on December 11 for a leader, a chairman, 2 vice chairmen and 15 Central Executive Committee members. But Dr. Charles says the General Secretary is getting too involved in the election campaign, openly taking sides and supporting one candidate. Instead, he wants her to be professional and desist from compromising her office. Dr. Charles also claims that a slate purporting to suggest persons who should be elected leader, chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, and the central executive members is being circulated to members. He says he's allegedly listed to be elected a committee member, while another candidate is for the leadership, Aubrey Norton, is listed to be elected leader. He says the purported list smacks of disrespect to him and calls on Mr. Norton to dissociate himself from the circulation of such a list. Dr. Charles says the presentation of such a list is deceptive, disingenuous, and misleading at best. He says the PNCR respects the right of delegates to freely elect a leader and other top officials. A 100-year-old woman who was not vaccinated has died of COVID-19. She was from Cuyuni, Mazaruni. The Health Ministry says a 68-year-old woman from Region 4, Damarara Mahaika, who was also not vaccinated, has succumbed to the viral disease. Guyana's death toll is now 930. The Ministry of Health says that of the 56 persons who are hospitalized, 19 are receiving intensive care. The statistics show that 2,552 others have been instructed to isolate themselves at home. Based on the latest tests conducted within the past 24 hours, there are 129 new infections. A 16-year-old boy who was part of a group of males who allegedly robbed a housewife of her gold chain at the Stabroek Market Square was Wednesday shot dead. Police say Seidel Bourne of Agricola East Bank, Demerara, was shot by a plainclothes policeman who's the woman's husband. Investigators were informed that the plainclothes policeman opened fire with a service pistol after he heard one of the teenager's accomplices urging Bourne to stab the woman. Police say that at about 2:20 Wednesday afternoon, the policeman and his wife, who was wearing a gold chain, were attacked by Bourne, who was armed with a knife, and 2 other males. Bourne was pronounced dead on arrival at the Georgetown Public Hospital. A Nigerian man has been found guilty of 10 counts of obtaining more than $6 million from a Guyanese female pensioner by false pretense. Police say the Nigerian national Uche Raymond Okoye, also known as Uche Parker, was found guilty of 10 counts of obtaining money by false pretense from a 65-year-old woman. Police say Uche preyed on the elderly woman via WhatsApp and Facebook by falsely claiming that he had a package intended for her with money and other valuables. He requested the 65-year-old to transfer money from her bank account to other local accounts 10 times, as she believed that indeed he was in possession of a package for her. The elderly woman testified that during the period of October and November 2020, she transferred her life savings totaling more than $6 million to different accounts of persons who are not known to her on Uche's instructions. She also told the court that she has been a vendor all her life and believed that the person she met on Facebook did indeed send a package with money. Police say persons testified that monies were sent to their accounts and that they received a percentage after withdrawing the said deposits. Uche is currently facing several other fraud charges before the magistrate's court. Police say the Nigerian Uche Raymond Okoye is suspected to be part of a criminal network involving Nigerian nationals who collaborate with other associates to solicit cash from their victims by promising high-valued merchandise to be delivered following the payment of a charge or fee. The Nigerian will return to court on the 11th of November for sentencing before Magistrate Annette Singh. In the Caribbean, The Ecclesiastical Commission of Antigua and Barbuda says it is not willing to permit Rastafarians not to take a COVID vaccine. Antigua Observer reports that the cabinet has directed the commission to oversee all religious exemptions for students some weeks ago. However, Education Minister Darrell Matthews says that the body has declared that it is not able to do so ahead of the November 11 reopening of school. The Commission has deferred comment to a later date. The mandate stipulates that pupils 12 years and older must have at least one dose of a COVID shot by November 11 or risk losing access to face-to-face learning. Parents are advised to seek an exemption on either medical or religious grounds for their children. The Observer says Education Minister Matthews confirmed that a special committee chaired by Director of Education Claire Brown has begun reviewing medical exemptions. Barbadians could face an immediate hike in their electricity rates if the Fair Trading Commission FTC approves the Barbados Light and Power Company request for a temporary relief ahead of its final decision on the matter. The Barbados Nation News reports that Chief Executive Officer of the Fair Trading Commission, Dr. Marsha Atherley Ikichi, has confirmed that the electric utility wanted interim relief. She says the power company wants electricity rates to be increased between 5% and 20% from November 1. Nation News reports that it published a notice from the regulator's General Legal Counsel, Commission Secretary Kevin Webster, states that BLNP wanted its overall proposed 11.9% increase rate to come into effect from April 1, 2022. Nation News says the BLNP filed the application for an increased tariff on October 4, its first since 2010. The managing director, Roger Blackman, says the significant increase in costs and the necessary investments like the new 33-megawatt clean energy bridge at Trans St. Lucie compels the Barbados Light and Power to seek an adjustment in electricity prices. Developing islands in the Caribbean are set to benefit from a $1 billion investment from the United Arab Emirates UAE. The Trinidad Guardian says the CARICOM chair and the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, was present at the launch. Energy Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Young, says he's not fully apprised of how the initiative will be rolled out. Young is part of the government group attending the United Nations Climate Change Conference led by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. Prime Minister Brown sent details from the launch of the initiative on Wednesday about the Energy Transition Accelerator financing. The UAE has pledged some $400 million. The platform has set a goal of $1 billion in funding. The Inter-American Development Bank IDB has launched a $20 million fund to strengthen green fiscal policies in Latin America and the Caribbean. Win FM Radio says the project has been launched in collaboration with the German government. The trust fund will finance country-specific technical assistance projects. It will also help create a regional knowledge-sharing platform for finance ministries to exchange best practices in the design and implementation of climate-related fiscal policies. IDB President Mauricio Claver Caron says Latin America and the Caribbean are now equipped to accelerate their economic recovery with fiscal policies that build their resilience against extreme weather events and attract green investments. The announcement comes as climate change exerts increased pressure on fiscal balances and public debt in Latin America and the Caribbean. The LACs are looking to strengthen the policies addressing climate change and meet ambitious greenhouse gas emission goals under the Paris Agreement. A recent IDB study in fiscal policy and climate change estimates that decarbonization policies could help create 15 million net new jobs in the region by 2030. The fund is made up of financial resources donated by the German government and managed by the IDB. And now, the world news from the BBC.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Tigrayan forces fighting the Ethiopian government say they're prepared to march on the capital, Addis Ababa, even though they don't want to take it over. The spokesman for the Tigray People's Liberation Front said the aim wasn't to seize power, but to stop Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's forces committing what he described as genocide against Tigrayans. The federal government says it's on the brink of victory, but Tigrayan forces have been advancing towards the capital and seizing key towns in recent days. Catherine Biarahanga in Nairobi has more details.
There is this crucial moment now in Ethiopia where the rebels are outside the capital. They haven't definitively said that they will march onto the capital. And this gives a moment potentially where the government could start negotiations, where there is a pause in the fighting, a moment to decide that let's not allow the rebels to enter the capital, let's negotiate and try and find a resolution.
Officials in southwestern Niger say 60 people have been killed in an attack by Islamist insurgents near the border with Burkina Faso and Mali. They include members of a local self-defense militia, its leader, the mayor of the village of Bani Bangu, and the insurgents themselves. 9 people are said to be missing. Scientists have identified a gene that doubles the risk of respiratory failure from coronavirus. It's especially common among people of South Asian ancestry. The researchers say this partly explains the impact the pandemic has had on the subcontinent and in communities of South Asian origin in Europe. James Davis is an associate professor of genomics at Oxford University. He says the gene occurs to differing degrees in different populations.
It's quite common in people of European ancestry. It's about 15% of the population. It's really rare in people from the Far East and people with an African ancestry. And it's actually incredibly common in people from the Indian subcontinent. So it's about 60% of people in the Asian subcontinent carry the higher risk genotype.
A Russian analyst who was a source for a dossier of allegations about Donald Trump's relationship with Russia has been arrested in the United States. Igor Danchenko has been charged with making false statements to the FBI. Nomia Iqbal is in Washington.
Igor Danchenko has been described as the primary researcher for the so-called Steele dossier, a collection of reports compiled by the former British spy Christopher Steele. It contains salacious claims about Donald Trump, as well as allegations that people within his orbit were conspiring with Russia for him to win the 2016 presidential election. Mr. Danchenko was arrested as part of an investigation appointed by Trump's Justice Department to investigate the origins of the Russia probe.
World News from the BBC. The International Energy Agency has said promises made so far at the Global Climate Summit in Glasgow, if fully kept, could limit global warming to 1.8 degrees. As the conference began, the UN was predicting a temperature rise of 2.7 degrees. But climate experts have told the BBC that any commitments made need to be taken with a pinch of salt. Sudan's military chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has ordered the release of 4 civilian ministers detained since he led last month's coup. The deposed Prime Minister, Abdullah Hamdok, remains under house arrest. An army spokesman said the formation of a new government was imminent. There's been growing international pressure for a civilian-led transitional authority to be restored. For the first time, a majority in South Africa has voted for parties other than the African National Congress. The ANC won 46% of the national vote in this week's municipal elections. Here's Nomsa Maseko.
Results from Monday's municipal elections have left the party of Nelson Mandela politically bruised. While support for the organisation slipped significantly from the last municipal elections held in 2016, it's also clear that the party has been losing ground for the last decade. The ANC suffered a bruising defeat in major cities like Johannesburg, Pretoria and Gqeberha, formerly known as Port Elizabeth. But despite this, no one opposition political party has won majority votes in areas where the ANC lost support. This means uneasy coalition negotiations will take centre stage.
President Putin has promised that Russia and Belarus would jointly resist any attempts by foreign countries to meddle in their internal affairs. On the day they signed agreements to further integrate their nations. The accords cover greater cooperation on economic and military matters, as well as migration. BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
Is it a special occasion? Are you on a budget but still want a filling and oh so mouth-watering meal? Look no further. KFC is here for you with their affordable and finger-licking good meals. Treat your family or friends like royalty without hurting your pockets. KFC is here for you at 9 locations and 6 drive-thrus, including the Amazonia Mall at Providence, to make that occasion really special. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now a recap of the highlights. The University of Guyana has set up a unit and developed a policy to deal with issues of discrimination on campus. A candidate vying for the leadership of the PNCR is complaining that a general secretary of the party is interfering too much in the elections process. A 100-year-old woman has died of COVID-19. In the region, Barbadians may pay more for electricity if a request by the Barbados Light and Power Company is approved by the Fair Trading Commission ahead of its final decision on the matter. The Inter-American Development Bank has launched a $20 million fund to strengthen green fiscal policies in Latin America and the Caribbean. And internationally, rebels in Ethiopia are contemplating marching on the capital, Addis Ababa. That's the end of the news, which came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.